Hi, this is the Business Guy, and in this video, we'll be talking about the best offshore trust jurisdiction for asset protection. We'll be comparing the Cook Islands, Nevis, Belize, the Bahamas, and the Cayman Islands. We'll discuss the laws in each of these jurisdictions and which one best protects your assets from lawsuits. On this episode of What's the Best Excuse for Being Late You've Ever Used? Sorry I am late, my cat had the hiccups. Introduction to offshore trust. Before we dive into the specific jurisdictions, let's first discuss what an offshore trust is and why it might be beneficial. An offshore trust is a trust established in a foreign country, typically in a jurisdiction many refer to as a tax haven, for the purpose of protecting assets from creditors. These trusts are often used by high net worth individuals, business owners, and investors who want to protect their assets from lawsuits, divorce, or other legal issues. And if you could help me with an issue and you'd be so kind as to click the like button so YouTube promotes this video, I'd really appreciate it. And while you're down there, you can also click the subscribe button if you haven't already, so when more videos come out like this, you'll be up to date right away. So here's how an offshore trust works. Your local court says, give me the money. Our offshore trustee company law firm says, no, not going to. You don't have jurisdiction down here, often making them the #1 asset protection tool in your arsenal. Usually these trusts are tax neutral, so they do not increase or decrease your taxes. Comparison of offshore trust jurisdictions. So which trust is best at protecting your assets? Now let's compare the laws of the Cook Islands, Nevis, Belize, the Bahamas, and the Cayman Islands. These jurisdictions are known for having strong asset protection laws and are popular choices for establishing offshore trusts. Let's start with the Cook Islands Trust. The Cook Islands, located south of Hawaii, is one of the most popular jurisdictions to open an offshore asset protection trust. It has a long history of providing strong asset protection, and being part of New Zealand, it is politically very stable. Legal experts agree that the Cook Islands has the strongest asset protection case law history in the world. So it's not just theory, but it has withstood the test of time in protecting the client's assets from lawsuits in actual court cases. The Cook Islands is one of the mainstay locations to create offshore asset protection trusts. In fact, I've set up more Cook Islands trusts than anybody in the world. Like one of our doctor clients told us, my marriage is based on trust, and that trust is based in the Cook Islands. In fact, I've been setting up Cook Islands trusts for nearly 30 years, and when you look at the Global Corruption Perceptions Index, you'll see one country that stands above the rest for the long term and is the most trusted jurisdiction in the world out of 180 countries listed. This country has held the top spots more than any other country, and that's New Zealand. And as we said, Cook Islands is part of New Zealand. And I can attest, I have personally witnessed a nearly 3-decade track record of impeccable integrity among the trustee companies, the regulators, and the legal system. In fact, here's a picture of me with our head attorney trustee in the Cook Islands enjoying a little kayak ride together. The Cook Islands have a stellar reputation, an exceedingly low crime rate, is extremely safe, is very tightly regulated, and has high regard for the rule of law. In fact, I have a Cook Islands trust for myself and my family. The Nevis Trust. The island of Nevis, N-E-V-I-S, in the Caribbean Sea, just southeast of Florida, is another popular location for offshore trusts. In fact, it has strong asset protection laws and is known for being debtor-friendly. The laws are almost identical to the Cook Islands. In fact, I know the person who wrote the Nevis Trust statutes, and I know the author of the subsequent revisions. Amendments to the statutes added these two additional benefits that the Cook Islands does not have. Number one, in order to file a case against the Nevis Trust, a creditor must post a cash bond of an amount deemed feasible by the Nevis High Court, usually in the $100,000 range. Number two, Nevis International Trust statutes have abolished the Mariva injunction having to do with trusts, which is roughly the U.S. equivalent of a temporary restraining order. A Mariva injunction freezes trust assets and ties the trustee's hands from making any changes. A judgment creditor will commonly request such a ruling in conjunction with filing a lawsuit against a trust. This option for plaintiffs and judgment creditors has been abolished in Nevis, so your opponent cannot freeze your trust assets, and your trustee can continue to manage funds for your benefit, use the trust to pay your legal bills, and with your cooperation, make changes that you want to make to the trust. And that's even during litigation. So what do we do if there is ever a Mariva injunction imposed on a Cook Islands trust? What we do is we have the protector convert the Cook Islands Trust into a Nevis Trust. In fact, the funniest picture I ever took in Nevis was of this monkey crossing sign. followed by this picture of a monkey crossing the road that I took when I rounded the next corner. Moving a trust from the Cook Islands to Nevis during litigation provides two benefits. First, it will bypass the asset freeze imposed by the Mariva injunction. And two, it makes your opponent have to spend another big pile of money, deposit, let's say, $100,000 with the Nevis courts, plus pay a huge retainer to a new attorney in Nevis. In fact, here's a picture of me with a former premier of Nevis, the island's head of state, and here I am with a current premier of Nevis. The Belize Trust. Belize is another popular location for offshore trusts. It is known for having strong asset protection laws, and just like the Cook Islands and Nevis, Belize trusts do not recognize judgments that originate in a foreign country, such as the United States. Your legal opponent must initiate any further litigation in the offshore jurisdiction in order to reach the trust assets. And there is no statute of limitations on fraudulent conveyance with a Belize trust. So just like the Cook Islands and Nevis, the assets are protected right away. But in Belize, this asset transfer can't be challenged in the Belize courts. But it's not all beaches and cream. Here's why we proceed with caution in Belize, and I will preface this by saying that I have never seen anything but the utmost in integrity with the trustees thus far in Belize. However, what I have seen is this: if you pay a government official in Belize, you get what you want. In the Cook Islands, you get thrown in jail. The crime rate is also very high in Belize. Armed robberies are very common in Belize City, the country's biggest city, and out of 195 countries, Belize is in the top 15 for intentional homicides per capita. So from an honesty and integrity standpoint, and from a crime standpoint, I simply trust the Cook Islands with my money more than I trust Belize. The Bahamas Trust. The Bahamas is a popular location for offshore trusts due to its political stability and strong asset protection laws. The Bahamas Trust is known for being a flexible and cost-effective option for asset protection. Bahamian trusts have a 2-year statute of limitations on fraudulent conveyance into the trust. Now, a slice of mango pie is $2.50 in Jamaica and $3 in the Bahamas. So these are the pie rates of the Caribbean. Joking aside, the Bahamas is where most of the movie was filmed. How long can a Bahamian trust last? Most other jurisdictions around the world impose trust statutes that have what they call a rule against perpetuities. It states that a trust cannot exist, for example, after 21 years after the death of the last named beneficiary who was alive at the time of the trust creation. However, in the Bahamas, just like the Cook Islands and Nevis and Belize, a trust can last forever, creating a legacy for many generations to come. In fact, here's a picture of me, my wife, and daughter in the Bahamas. Now, what I don't like about the Bahamas is that a foreign judgment can be enforced once the foreign judgment has been recognized or domesticated by order of the Supreme Court of the Commonwealth of Bahamas. In the other jurisdictions we just talked about, on the other hand, one must file a whole new court case and start from square one. The Cayman Islands. The Cayman Islands is one of the more popular jurisdictions to open an offshore asset protection trust. It provides an extensive protection to trusts, including the requirement that the creditor must prove their case to a relatively high degree, that the person who settled the trust in the Cayman Islands acted in bad faith. The big problem with the Cayman Islands Trust is that the assets must be in the trust for 6 years to avoid a fraudulent conveyance challenge to the assets transferred into the trust. So for that reason alone, we don't like the Cayman Islands Trusts. Conclusion. In conclusion, offshore trusts can be a powerful tool for asset protection. The Cook Islands, Nevis, Belize, the Bahamas, and the Cayman Islands are all popular jurisdictions for establishing offshore trusts. Each jurisdiction has its own unique benefits and drawbacks, and as mentioned, I've chosen the Cook Islands for myself and my family because of the trustworthiness of the jurisdiction, along with the strong asset protection laws and case law history. I also like Nevis a lot as a second choice because of the additional protections of eliminating the Mariva injunction on trusts, which could otherwise freeze trust assets. Plus, Nevis requires one to pay what is usually a huge bond of at least $100,000 or so before filing a case against a trust. Belize has great asset protection laws, but the jurisdiction is less trustworthy in our experience. Bahamian trusts are fine, except they do recognize foreign judgments once approved by the courts. Now, I do like the Cayman banks, but I'm not a big fan of the asset protection trusts because they may not protect your assets for 6 years. Not from the date of creation, but from the date the trust is created and the assets are placed into the trust. So I hope this helps you understand which trust may be best for you. If you want to set up a trust or have questions, feel free to call and speak with one of our attorneys or consultants, or fill out a free consultation form at assetprotectionplanners.com. Thanks for watching this video on offshore trusts in the Cook Islands, Nevis, Belize, the Bahamas, and the Cayman Islands. Please like, subscribe, and share this video with others. We'll see you next time. This is The Business Guy.